This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
Hello. Well, I'll tell you what. We're taping this show on Tuesday, February 14th, which some of you may refer to as Valentine's Day. Personally, the romantic that I am, I call it Corporate Extortion Day. But nonetheless, my guest tonight is Steve Schneider, the sports director at WAFB, and my good friend who had to get a yard pass from his wife, Stacy, here on Valentine's Day to come do the show. So me, being the romantic that I am.
You said you'd make me laugh.
I did.
Laughing right out of the gate.
His
Corporate
and hers,
Day.
His and hers Sports 225 T-shirts for the Schneiders. Now, I don't think they'll have the guts to wear it out for a romantic dinner, but don't say that I don't observe Valentine's Day and that I'm not a romantic. How about that, huh? You think when she
Where's
sees
the red, though? I mean, I don't see any red in the shirt.
You think when she sees that, I'll be off the hook? Like maybe get back in her good graces a little bit?
No.
Oh, well. Okay, thank you. Good night, and drive home safely. How are you?
I'm good. Pleasure being with you again.
We have life events. Your son just got married. My son just had a baby.
Yeah, 2 out of 3, you know.
Yeah.
2 out of 4 if you count my daughter. So
yeah.
Batting 500.
Speaking of which, since it's my show and I can go on a little bit here, so Kirk Feinswag's wife Lindsay, who previously was one of 3 L. Feinswags on the planet. There's me, there's a cousin, Lori Feinswag, who just moved from Houston to Portland, Oregon, and Lindsay. And they just had a baby, Lila. And here's a picture of Lila. And she was born on Abraham Lincoln's birthday, February 12th. Came in at 6 pounds something, 18 inches.
This is also my dad's birthday, so
there you go.
There. That's why you had me on, right?
Something like that. So little Lila is actually fairly little in our family. It's funny because Kirk's wife Lindsay is a short person. She's like 5'1", and in our family everybody's tall. You have a tall family. And it was joking, like when Kirk first started dating her, I was like, dude, we never had a short person in the family before. So, of course, they had a baby that was a lot smaller than the other babies. I mean, I was like almost 10 pounds. Kirk was 10 pounds.
So at the wedding ceremony, when the minister says, anybody have an objection, you raise your...
We have a height requirement here.
She's too short. Get out the tape.
And she's fantastic. So I can't wait to meet Lila. So, so you married one off, and then things being what they are, there's no time to come up for air at WAFB. You had the Warwick Dunn Awards recently, which is that's been going on forever, and it's a huge event.
10 years.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe. It's flown by, but it has been it's been a really special 10-year run.
And for those of you who don't know, Warwick Dunn was a football player at Catholic High, who then went to Florida State and then had a brief pro career, NFL career.
Well, and the key is he was a football player at Catholic High the year we started Sportsline.
Wow,
that was his first year playing varsity football. He immediately burst onto the scene as a star as a sophomore. And then a couple of years later, his senior year, his mom, who was a single parent police officer,
Betty Smothers,
was ambushed doing an extra detail. She was doing a security detail, bank deposit, overnight. And she was killed in the line of duty. And he's devoted his entire life to her memory, to the mother that she was, the person that she was. She, obviously everybody's mom means a lot to them, but this woman was especially strong, and I think that's the reason he ended up doing our event. We obviously, were covering him all those years, not just at Catholic High, but when he went to Florida State, and we would keep up with him when he was in the pros and stuff like that. But he called me on a Thanksgiving Day, basically a couple of years after I asked him to do it, and said that he had reconsidered. He's a very humble guy. I don't think in the beginning he saw himself having an event with his name on it, a trophy, in his likeness or whatever.
Yeah. And of course, this is to honor the best football players and players in the area.
Correct. The best senior player. It's a senior award, and first and foremost, it's the best the player who has the best season as a senior. But I think a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that this would be another way to honor his mother and continue her legacy in our community, which is, you know, where he grew up. He obviously had a lot of people in our community who supported him in a tough time because his dad wasn't there, his mom was now gone. He was the head of the household. You know, all of his siblings were younger. And so, you know, he did have a grandmother who was still around.
25 years ago, memory serves.
It was exactly 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Because his last year football season was 1992.
Yeah. And of course, you know, and if you don't know anything about Warwick Dunn, in addition to that, what he's done with Habitat for Humanity and the homes that he's built for families in need in the Baton Rouge area and in Louisiana is just stunning.
Right. His program is Home for the Holidays. Yep. And it's specifically designed to help people just like his mom was. Somebody who was hardworking, single parent, kids to take care of, who could never, you know, in providing for the family, could never really save enough money for a down payment to buy a home.
Right.
Okay. So what his program does, they identify, and Habitat for Humanity, I think, is one of the groups he works with. He does this in a lot of different cities. Every city that he's lived in, he was born in New Orleans, lived in Baton Rouge, went to college in Tallahassee, played pro ball in Tampa and Atlanta, and I think he's even expanded it to other cities now. But they identify these single parents who just need that extra push to get their own place. So his foundation does the down payment, and then his sponsors furnish the home, and it's a surprise. Like, the person is identified, they don't know that they're up for this. They're asked to come to a location thinking it's something else, and they show up, and it's a new home, and it's Warwick Dunn and his you know, support team, and it's really special every time it happens. And it's not just moms, it's single dads, and of course it got a lot of publicity a couple of years ago when Deshaun Watson was up for the Heisman Trophy. He was a finalist in New York, and his mom told the story of how Warwick Dunn came into their life because she was one of those single mothers who a little Deshaun was her child, and they moved into a house. And of course, him winning the national championship, it came up again this past year. So just an incredible guy. I mean, there are a lot of superstars and athletes who have foundations and make appearances, and I think a lot of it's driven by their agents and their business managers, that sort of thing. This is a guy who genuinely, from day one, did it because of his mother's memory. It's a very genuine, caring deal, and for him to do our thing is just, you know, we're honored. Right,
and to finish on a segment now that we're way over on, but no, it's true.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, because it's a great story. But the fact that he's done it and sustained. So many guys, you know, hear about him, well, they do a charitable event for a couple of years, then you never hear about it again. Right. Speaking of sustaining, my friend Steve Schneider is going into his almost his 4th decade at WAFB. That's pretty damn close, actually. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College, and I really encourage you to come out to our 12-acre campus here on Airline Highway in Baton Rouge.
Contact ITI to enroll in our Construction Management Associate and Occupational Studies degree program. Learn to plan, coordinate, budget, and supervise construction projects, and collaborate with engineers and architects in the residential, commercial, industrial, and heavy civil construction industry sectors. Call now about this new, exciting career degree. ITI Technical College. Begin your journey to a better life.
Back on Sports 225, hanging out with my buddy Steve Schneider. He's the sports director at WAFB, who is trying to tell me that he's been in sports media now for going into his 6th decade or something. You're not even 60 yet.
I'm a 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2000 teens, right?
Yeah.
So if I can,
If we both live long enough, you know, whatever. When do you? How far are you away from 60?
Basically 2 years.
2 years. Okay, there you go. So, you know, we're coming to you in the midst of a million things, you know, it's winter time, and, you know, LSU baseball's about to start. The basketball season is, you know, imploding on a daily basis. Luckily, we're in between signing period in football and the spring game, which I know you just live for. But
hey, they've announced it's going to be.
No, don't even mention it. Don't even mention it. But
maybe some people will show up just because it's at night, right?
Yeah, but I really enjoyed us talking about Warwick Dunn in the last segment. But I was thinking about this. You know, Brenda said to me today, speaking of plugs again, Brenda, my wife, Brenda LeBlanc, who is a PE
Hall
and
of
health
Fame.
teacher, right, at St. Joseph's Academy, where she was a high school volleyball coach for a very long time. Since retired as a coach, but still a teacher. Because people always go, "What are you doing now?" She goes, "She teaches. She got to. She goes to work every day."
I saw her at a signing the other
Yeah,
day.
and but she went into the St. Joseph's Academy Hall of Fame, and here's a picture of that, and her up there, and her speech was hilarious, and we had a good time. She told the story about how we got introduced, which was a very long time ago, or met. We never did get introduced. We met because I went to go do a story on her, but whatever. So this is her 4th Hall of Fame now. So, and don't think she didn't remind me of this all the time in the last couple of weeks, but she's been in the Louisiana Volleyball Coaches Association Hall of Fame, the
Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
Louisiana High School Athletic Association Hall of
Correct.
Fame, not the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, but
school.
also the Episcopal School of Acadiana, where she built a dynasty over there before coming here. Now, the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is in pretty lofty air. I don't think, she was, the best coach in high school we ever had in the state, but I don't think that gets her into that Hall of Fame. That's some lofty air.
And I meant the high school.
Yeah.
Louisiana's high school Hall of Fame.
So she only has, people were like, well, what's left? Well, she ought to be in the Tulane Athletic Hall of Fame, which she'll probably go into at some point. She left there as their best player ever. And then there's always that Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame that our friend Ronnie Rance now is running. He's left
That's
sports
correct.
meeting, is doing that.
That's
But
got a big event Thursday.
yeah. So I'm Hall of Famed out. Whatever. But where I was going with that, long before I ever got on this silly tangent, was I was thinking about it. She asked me this morning, what are you guys going to talk about? And I said, come on, you've known me long enough. We're doing this show for 22 years. I don't rehearse. But I started thinking about, whatever. And I was wondering about who some of your favorite athletes and people, and not necessarily athletes, but people who you've been with, covered, enjoyed over the course of those 5 decades that you
that's how many shows do we have, right? I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, but people always say to me, what was your favorite interview ever? And I don't ever quantify them. I don't ever even think about it. It's terrible.
Well, there's just too many. I mean,
Yeah.
I've literally, we're on digital now, have been for a decade, but before that, the other couple of 2.5, 3 decades, the stories are all on tapes.
We've used the word decade way too many times.
And occasionally you have to go into those tapes to find meaningful footage to tell a story.
Right, you sent me a picture from...
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll be scanning through those tapes and I'll see stories and I'm like, what is this? I don't even remember that I did the story. I mean, there's so many stories that have been done over the years. The easiest thing, I get to ask this all, what's the greatest story you ever covered, the biggest story you ever covered? And that's easy for me. That's when the Saints won the Super Bowl.
Right.
And it's more than just, every other Saints person never thinking they would make it there. It literally, when I moved to Mississippi as a 7-year-old is when the Saints were created. And within the first year or two, they were having training camp in Hattiesburg at Southern Miss.
Wow.
And my dad took us, he's a big Saints fan, and he would take us to the practices, my brother and me. So way before, careers or college or switching from electrical engineering to broadcasting, I was all about the Saints all those years, okay? So then you get into this business and you can't be a fan anymore. You have to be objective. You tell the good, you tell the bad. But it's still pretty cool if that team actually makes the biggest stage on the planet.
Yeah.
And you get to spend 10 days in Miami. Now, don't get the wrong idea. I wasn't laying on the beach. We worked 19-hour days from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day. But you go on adrenaline because it's such a huge story, and you know how much it means to all those people because you're actually one of the people who has been in since day one and knows all the failed teams and failed coaches and players that got away and went to other teams and became great. All the near misses and frustrations. So you know how important the story is. And to be there for 10 days was huge. Then the last press conference, your friend who's the PR director of the Colts, when it's down to the last question for Peyton Manning, surprises all the pundits and national people and says the last question goes to Steve Schneider, who nobody knows, but I get to ask the last question at the Friday press conference. Then in the championship fourth quarter, the kid named Tracy Porter, who we covered when he was at Port Allen High School and was at his house the day the Saints drafted him, makes the play of the game. You're on the field when you're not supposed to be because somebody screwed up and put you on the field in the end zone, and he runs right to you and drops the football at your feet. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, okay? So that's easily the biggest story in my career, just because of all the circumstances leading up to the game and the championship. Bizarre.
Well, there's no doubt that was the biggest, but I'm curious what might have been your favorite after that. But don't answer that because we're way over again.
Again.
He's awesome. He's awesome. He's Steve Schneider. I'm Lee Feinswag. We got to take this break at Sports 225.
It was nearly a decade ago that Brett teamed up to Imagine Your Parks, and you imagined big. 12 beautiful community parks from one end of the parish to the other, one family-sized water park, and 5 other parks just for your dogs. You have places to splash and places to explore. You have games to play and camps galore. No matter what you like to do or see, visit Breck.org and see how together we have made Breck better than imagined.
There you go. All right, we're back on Sports 225, hanging out with Steve Schneider from WAFB. So the most significant story was the Super Bowl win by the Saints.
Right.
Do you have one in there that you thought about? Because I know now that your wheels are spinning a little bit and you go, well, gosh, this was my favorite story, or I'm so glad I did.
Well, look, Skip Bertman in the LSU baseball program.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was in school, the LSU equipment football manager was the baseball coach. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I would go to some of the games as a student to watch because I was a sports fan and everything. And then I got into it, and Jack LeMay was the coach. And they had a vegetable garden down the right field line. And then I started doing games on the radio, and you go back and listen to those tapes, and you don't hear fans clapping in the stands. You hear birds tweeting in the old Alec Box Stadium. The place is empty. Skip's great line was, the good news is nobody cared. But the bad news is nobody cared, and he gets in there, and he obviously has the vision. He was with Ron Frazier at Miami, and he reaches out to the community and gets people to come and buy tickets and has his players paint the dugouts and the restrooms and everything. And obviously that was just the beginning of, a great ride. So I got to be there from the beginning, see it transition to what it is now, which is the nicest stadium in the country, probably the biggest following in college baseball. And now everybody has taken his blueprint and copied it, for their programs and stuff. So, and of course he was a very wise guy, very funny, interesting to talk to, and so, and look, I grew up in an age where access was everything, and favorite people, Warwick Dunn has to be one of them, and I'll tell you a quick story. When we went to Florida State to cover him, the coach was Bobby Bowden. When would a football coach show up on a Sunday morning and grant a one-on-one interview with a guy from Baton Rouge who happened to be driving through from the LSU Florida Gainesville game, welcome you into his office? That doesn't happen anymore. Okay?
No,
it's a bygone era, but access is what you want. Mm-hmm. Now people pay for access. ESPN, SEC Network, they dump millions of dollars into the school, which is great. They need that money, but that buys them the access that we used to just get as being members of the media before it exploded and everything. And so access for college baseball, Paul Maneri still today is pretty much the same way. You can pretty much talk to the guy anytime you want, get information. It's just the difference between what basketball has become and certainly what football has become, where you have to have special clearance from the CIA to get into the building sometimes.
If you're lucky.
So anyway,
that
was a very great experience to see a guy take nothing, make it into something, be there the whole way, and
I
witness history being made.
Yeah, I mean, sports is not just the games; it's the places we go and the people we meet. Mm-hmm. And because of our respective jobs, and just through LSU alone, when I think as the basketball beat writer for the longest time.
When you used to be able to go to practice?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, go to practice and get to know everybody. But right. I mean, to have covered Dale Brown and Shaquille O'Neal and so many other guys who came through there who I'm fond of and enjoyed, but to have met John Wooden, for example, because of that, or
Bill Walton.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And to have even as out of it as I am, go to the Final Four and have so many old coaches and basketball people that I can visit with who recognize you by name and shake hands and visit with you. Just in basketball alone. So that was I mean, because of what Baton Rouge became, and a lot of it was when I first got here, the National Sports Festival in 1985. I mean, just think of the people. I mean, like I drove.
Southern University, Avery Johnson.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest stories I ever covered. This little guy who came out from a junior college and ends up having Southern lead the nation in scoring. Plays in how many leagues? Gets to the NBA. Wins a world championship.
No, wait. I got to tell this story in case I never told this story. So I'm the Southern beat writer while Avery is there as a senior. Okay, his 2 years. So his senior year, a bunch of NBA scouts, like 3 or 4 guys who I knew, flew into Baton Rouge Airport, caught a cab, and came right over.
They saw the stats of all the assists he has.
Came right over to the game. So I saw all these guys, and I knew them all. So after the game, they all needed a ride. They were staying at what used to be the Hilton down, it's now the Marriott. So I drive, and they're all in the car. They're all piled into my car. And they were, what do you think of Avery Johnson? And I said, look, he's barely 6 feet tall. He can't shoot. He's slow. He can't cover a light pole. He throws a really nice bounce pass. I said, what's he going to do at your level? True story. And I've told Avery the story. He laughed. So they play, what did he play, 16 years in the NBA?
Ben Jobe did not say the same thing you said, right?
Played like 16 years in the NBA. Won a championship with the Spurs, coached forever. Now, of course, he's at Alabama and, probably going to turn things around there. So, show you what I know. But, I think about one of my favorite ones is Greg Louganis, the greatest diver of all time.
Came to the sports festival.
Right. Yeah. And then after that, the next year, they had the U.S. Diving Championships of all things at the Natatorium. And Louganis said, look, I want to go back to my hotel and I need lunch. But I said, well, can I drive you? And he goes, yeah. So he held my tape recorder and I drove. And that's how we did the interview. We had lunch, continued the tape recorder
ESPN
going.
Must have seen that because now they do that with their reporters and the football coaches, right?
I set a lot of trends with the old big chairs. All right, we got to take this last break. He's Steve Schneider. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Don't let the bed bugs bite you. We'll put them to sleep.
Bed bugs can be transported from most anywhere. Hotels, department stores, even a friend's house.
We've got the bead on bed bugs. Call the bug man today.
Call 923-BUGS.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225. Of course, Steve Schneider's here. John Williams from Think JCW directed the show today. You can go to sports225.com not only to watch this show, all the archive shows, but get the listings for when we're on Cox 4 and CST. There you go. What's your favorite single story that you ever did? Feature story.
I can't even.
Like the feature on somebody.
I can think of one off the top of my head, but I don't know that it qualifies as the favorite one. But I did do a story with Mike Edmondson about being with Nick Saban through his years.
Yeah.
He was the state trooper.
I had him and Ricky Adams on once doing the exact same show.
And then being with Les Miles and comparing and contrasting what it was like to be there every day with those two coaches and their person. It was some of the funniest, most insightful things.
Yeah.
They both won championships. They were far different type people. That was one of my fun stories. Mike is a great guy who I've known for a long time.
Mike, of course, is the head of the state police
now.
And at the time, Ricky Adams, who was the LSU police chief, the two of them together.
Exactly.
So when they both, when Mike left that job of guarding the coach, and our good friend Brian now is the coach, Brian Madden, but and when Ricky was no longer doing it, I said, will you guys come on and tell real stories? No, but we'll come on. Because I really, you think about when you're in that environment, the things that you could have heard.
And you asked me, we're talking, big time Super Bowls, college football. Yeah. Most of my career has been spent with high school coaches. Yeah. And so, to pick one thing is impossible. Those people have treated me so well.
I have to pick this because if we don't get out, we don't get to finish the show. He's Steve Schneider. Watch him on WAFB. Follow him on Twitter at 9
Sports Direct.
There you go. Thanks for watching. Good night.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky. This Spanish Town Mardi Gras, may it never die.